face is so overpowdered now. I'm Maybe Brick, and you're watching Makeup for Lost Time. This is my makeup series for trans women and other people who feel like they missed a few steps when it came to learning about makeup. Now, before we actually dive into talking about how we apply makeup, we're first going to talk about the tools we use to apply that makeup. We're going to move on to talking about sponges, because sponges are a thing that I feel like are actually misused often, and people don't really use them to the best of their ability. And so when I'm talking about sponges, I'm talking obviously about makeup sponges, beauty blenders, even though that's one company's name. It's what folks have referred to sponges as now. Ooh, this one's still dirty. Whoops. The important thing to know about sponges is that you're supposed to be using them damp. These are all dry right now, and if you're using a sponge while it's dry, sponges are literally sponges. They're intended to soak up and retain liquid. And so if I haven't put any water into this sponge and I start putting on a liquid foundation with it, it's going to soak up that foundation and I'm wasting product into the sponge. So I'm gonna actually do it on camera for you right now, because you wanna wet your sponge, but you don't want it to be dripping. You want it to be damp. So you're gonna wet it, but you're also gonna wring it out a little bit. And it's actually gonna get fluffier, it's gonna get a little bigger, and it's going to be better to use. I'm gonna get a little more water into it, but it's going to be easier to deposit makeup, and it's going to make sure you're not wasting a ton of product. In my opinion, I think sponges still do soak up some makeup, and so I don't actually use a ton of sponges in my routine. I'll actually use sponges more if there's something I want to soak up. If I put on too much concealer and I want to get rid of some of it, I might go over it with a sponge to blend it out and to make sure that there's not too much on my face. If anything, I use sponges for removal more than I use them for application. I think that's true. That's how I use them. A lot of people use them. I'm not saying you shouldn't use them for application. Again, use what you like using. Some people really like the feeling of, ooh, that actually is nice. People really like the feeling of like patting on with a sponge. I'm really a fan of the brush. Different people use different things in different ways, and that's totally fine. In fact, that's what I think makes makeup so much fun. I'm just holding this cup of water. The one thing I do like about sponges is sometimes they have really specific and innovative shapes to them, and so they have a lot of different surfaces. This one's actually a Hershey's Kiss, but I just couldn't help myself, and it actually has a really fine tip that can really get into your inner corners. But the fun thing about a sponge is that this one sponge can actually do my whole face in terms of creams. It can also lay down powders. I see people use sponges to lay down powders as well. But because I have so many different surfaces, and especially one like this that has like 3 separate different flat surfaces, you can use this rounded edge to put down your foundation. And then you can use this flat surface to put down some contour or some bronzer. You can use the other flat surface to put in some blush. Maybe you use this little tiny piece to put on some highlight, and you can actually do your whole base with just one sponge, where in terms of brushes, I'm using 4 or 5 brushes to do what I just said I could do with this one sponge. So, different things work for different people. I personally prefer a brush, but a sponge is versatile. A sponge has a lot of different ways that it can go on, and honestly, sponges do blend really nicely. Next, we have puffs, and this one is dirty, but this one is washable. Powder puffs are mostly used for powder, obviously, but I've seen some people using a powder puff to apply their concealer. I don't agree. But again, I guess there might be some wrong ways to apply things. But if you're getting a result that you want out of the way that you're applying something, do what works for you. Now, I have these little disposable puffs that I got from the Not from the grocery store, from a convenience store? Oh my gosh. Which you can fold to get into the corners of your eyes and things like that. I'm pretty sure Laura Mercier made like the OG powder puff. Like, I think that's like the iconic puff that she made. I really like this Beauty Blender one. Note, this is the brand Beauty Blender. Beauty Blender is a brand, not just a type of tool. This is the Beauty Blender powder puff. The thing that a lot of people don't know about powder puffs is that they are actually, most of them, not like those drugstore ones that I had. Drugstore, that's the word I was looking for. But a lot of people don't know that most powder puffs are designed to actually be dual-sided. And so the back is actually part of the puff, not just a back. And so the pink side of this one, the fluffier side of the puff, is obviously going to be used for application. And so you're gonna dip it into your powder like I just did, and I'm gonna rub it on the back of my hand to make sure the powder is evenly distributed through the puff before I go in and tap it in place. Oh, my face is gonna be so overpowdered. Powder puffs are nice for good, even distribution, making sure that when you're placing powder, it's going exactly where you want it because it's got this fine tip. It's also got like a sharp edge if you're a person who does specific contouring and highlighting. I don't really do my nose. I contoured my nose today because I was playing around with tools, but there's a lot of ways you can use the puff to distribute powder onto your face. But what a lot of people don't know is that the other side of most puffs, especially definitely this one, because I looked it up, is actually intended to reactivate your makeup and wakes things back up. So if I'm going, I actually will often use like a refreshing mist if I want to wake my makeup up a little bit. And then I can actually go in with this back side that people think is just the back to touch up my makeup and make sure that things are looking the way that I want it to and make everything feel a little more alive and just pat it in. And this is also machine washable. So one of the easier tools to clean, in my opinion. Ooh, what I didn't talk about is I have this like silicone sponge that I bought because I saw people using to apply creams and liquids, and it doesn't obviously soak up anything because it's like silicone, and it's not gonna waste any product. I found I also didn't love the blend of it because it's really hard to blend with something that's just silicone. I don't know if it's actually silicone. It doesn't blend very well, but what I do use it for, I've gotten questions about it because I do use it sometimes. If I'm applying eyeliner on my bottom lashes and stuff, I'll actually hold things in place with the silicone sponge so I don't mess up my makeup. You see? Instead of holding it down with my finger and getting a fingerprint. You can also just do that with a puff. You don't need a special tool specifically for that, especially since I didn't like the result of the silicone one. But just knowing you can use tools to do things outside of what the tool is supposed to be used for. Same is true if I want to like hold up something on my eye for some reason. I can very easily hold up my lid while I go in for my tight line. I feel like we're at like the miscellaneous section of tools. So I'm just gonna go through a few. Eyelash curlers obviously are there to curl your eyelashes. I have falsies on right now, so I'm not going to do that. And I actually don't curl my lashes a ton because I like where my lashes naturally fall, and so I don't actually have to go in with the eyelash curler every day, but we will cover that when we get to lashes and mascara and falsies and all of that. Along those lines, we also, of course, have eyelash glue. That is a tool that we use to apply those false lashes. I use a glue that goes directly onto the band of an eyelash, like a false lash, but there's also glue that also doubles as your eyeliner, and so it's just like a sticky tacky liner that you then can put lashes onto. There's magnetic lashes that I've never tried and I kind of don't want to. And so with the false eyelash application, I always use a tweezer. I personally use these ones from Kiss. They came with some eyelashes that I bought. I just like them because I can kind of like just put it on here and then I can hold onto it as I go to place it on my lash. They also make them in this shape that is actually going to be able to hold the lash fully from the front. And so you can go straight in when you're placing your lash. Again, find what works best for you and use what's easiest for you to use. Last, pencil sharpener. When you're using eyeliners or lip liners, we want to make sure that we keep them at a sharp point. This is a sharpener from NARS that I use specifically because it has the two sizes, and I have NARS's lip pencils that are very specifically thick shape, and so they make the sharpener specifically for that lip pencil. Having sharper edges on pencils or lip products are going to ensure that you get the precision and the application that you want. Sometimes using a duller edge might feel more comfortable for you. Again, choose your own adventure. But if you're using liners in particular for your eyes or your lips, sharp edges are going to be your friend. And a little tip for folks who don't know, any of these like retractable liners, like this one I love from Rare Beauty, if you want to sharpen these, because the retractable ones get dull pretty quickly because they're not like a typical pencil, the ends of most of these are actually sharpeners. And people don't know that, but most retractable eyeliners like this or lip liners like this have a sharpener built in. Is there anything that I'm missing? I mean, I have like this like comb for my brows that I can use sometimes. Oh, and the only other thing is I use good mascaras, so I don't need it a ton, but this little lash separator, if my lashes are clumping and sticking to each other, you can go in and kind of comb them and rake through to make sure that that's not happening. So I have one of these on hand. And of course, as I mentioned, you have other tools at your disposal. Your fingers can do a lot with application. Your fingers are not going to soak up as much product as any of the other tools that I've talked about besides that silicone, because skin on skin is actually going to give you a really nice blend. It's also not going to soak up any product because where's it going to go? Into your skin? I mean, it might soak up a little bit and it might leave a little bit, but your fingers can do a lot of application. Your fingers are also really good for glitters and shimmers when you're going onto your eyelids. And they can deposit that really easily and really nicely. Oh, now I have to make this even. Now, your fingers can't do everything. I mean, they can do a lot. You can even put lip stuff on if you're putting on something that doesn't have to be really clean and precise. I have tried to get really specific with my acrylics. It does not work. There are some things that a finger is going to do best, honestly. And there are some things that a finger is really not going to do well. So, we did brushes, we did sponges, we did puffs, we did miscellaneous, we did our fingers. Am I missing anything? Y'all tell me if I'm missing something. What am I missing? I feel like there's something that I'm forgetting to talk about that's like gonna be a very obvious and very specific thing that I probably use on myself every day. I'm looking at all of my tools and all of my applicators and all of my makeup, and I'm not seeing anything that I'm missing, but you'll let me know. The last and most important thing that I want to talk about is cleaning. And cleaning actually probably deserves its own video, but especially with brushes and sponges and really all of the tools that you're using to apply liquids and creams And powder. Yeah, most of the tools that you're using, you're going to want to make sure that you're cleaning on a regular basis because these things can hold on to bacteria and you're putting them directly onto your face. And so whether it's the dead skin cells or it's the actual physical product that gets stuck in the bristles or in the sponge, you're going to want to clean that out. I have to do it for a lot of my brushes when I do big, more colorful looks and stuff, because if I have a brush that is covered in green eyeshadow and the next day I don't want green eyeshadow and I want to use this brush, I'm gonna need to have cleaned it. Oh, I'm looking at one and I realize the other, I guess this is the last tool that I'm seeing that I would use sometimes, is some medical tape. And you can put that under your eyes to make sure that your wing is on a straight angle and is a really sharp line. If you saw my Halloween look this year, you saw that I also cut my blush to like contour my cheek with. You can use tape to make sure that you get really sharp lines and results. And you can also use tape to remove chunky glitter. And so just laying it on at the end of the night and using it to pull off the glitter can also be fun and keep that glitter from going down your drain. But I think that's all of the tools that I use. If I am forgetting anything, if there's questions you have on something I didn't cover or something that you want me to clarify, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to make this a dialogue. I have a curriculum planned of how I want to teach things step by step when we start getting into application next week. But thank you so much for the warm welcome I got to my first video with these. I'm really excited to be making up for lost time with you all, and I'm really excited to dive into application next week. So if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to this channel, leave me a comment letting me know what you want to learn, and I will see you next week for Makeup for Lost Time.